Maybe short questions, or you want me to pull it, or just ask it now?
Why don't we just pull it, make it easy so we can move on with the rest of the agenda?
Permission to aerial spraying for spray tent work caterpillars.
Okay, and let's move that to the very first item of business then.
Sure, it's a short question.
Yeah, okay. All right, with that change, I would, we have a motion, but not, or did you second it in the same?
He second.
No, I made a motion.
Oh,
I'll second it.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds with the addition or the removal of the aerial spraying from the consent agenda. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, perhaps just for the folks who are watching us today, maybe just go through the list.
Oh,
real quick.
thank you. So it's a kind of a long list. The approval of the minutes from the last meeting, approval of the auditors warrants and claims, that's the bills. Approval of human services warrants and claims, that's the health and human services bills. Cancellation of service warrants. Once in a while, we get a bill or a check that was written out to the wrong person or the wrong amount or whatever, so we have to cancel those. Prairie Pothole Gambling Permit, which is an annual event in early September. The Wilmer Aerial Flying Service, we took that off the agenda. We'll be hearing it in a minute. And the 2024 liquor license renewal for, not sure who that's for. I can open it up.
It's 5 of them.
Businesses.
Oh, a number of businesses,
Three of them.
annual renewals. And then the annual special hunt at the Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, aerial spraying approval.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, my concern is I just want to check with the Kennesaw County Attorney if, we've done this in the past every year, but it just really kind of dawned on me looking at it. The attachment is just really 2 sentences long. The Wilmer Aerial Spraying Incorporated is requesting permission to conduct aerial spraying for tentworm caterpillars in Kennesaw County. The product being used for the application is a BT insecticide called 48B, and that was it. Is there any other information from our county attorneys or about liability, if they're asking for permission to do this, that we should be checking out first?
No, I don't believe so. I mean, they'll have to carry their own coverage.
It's in insurance and
Yep.
there'd be no comeback. So we're giving permission that they can fly and do it?
Right.
Okay. That being the case, then, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Berg moves on approving the Wilmer aerial spraying application, permission to spray for 4-cent caterpillars. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Any discussion? I think we also do this with Benson Ag Service, don't we? Or have in the
I'm
past.
not sure who it is, but I remember, permitting or
Right.
passing these in the past, so.
So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. First item of business under our general business discussion is the Middle Fork Crow River Watershed District Board Manager appointment or reappointment. Administrator Baker is going to the podium to make introductions.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kelsey Baker, Candioi County Administrator. As the Chair mentioned, we have an opening for the Middle Fork Watershed District. We received 2 applicants or 2 letters of interest this year, Sarah Sietzma and Jeff Gherkin. They're both in attendance today. And my understanding of the past practice is that the board has reviewed both of the letters of interest that were included in the board packets, and it's up to the board to make the decision on who they would appoint to the Watershed District.
So we're going to invite each of the candidates up to the podium to give us a little background, even though we did receive their letter in our packet. So Sarah, we're going to start with you, Ms. Sietzma, because you're up first on my list here. So.
And if you want the computer, the letters are there too.
Oh, perfect. Well, good morning, Commissioners. So I am Sarah Sietzma. I currently work for the City of Wilmer as their environmental specialist, and in that capacity, I do a lot with stormwater and wastewater. And previously in my career, I actually worked for the Watershed District for about 4 years, from 2008 to 2012. and it was fantastic. And our board of managers then were phenomenal. And then in between the watershed district and the city, I worked for the Department of Natural Resources. So I am very interested in serving on the board of managers, and I don't want to take away your current board member because it sounds like he's both a great fit and an active participant. And I know firsthand that it can be difficult to find both interested and qualified manager candidates. So I don't want to take that away from the Watershed District staff or the Board of Managers. I also understand that the continuity that comes with the opportunity to serve more than one term can be very valuable to an organization as well. So if there's an opportunity to serve on the Board of Managers in the near future, I would be very happy to be considered for that.
Thank you very much and for that gracious response. Are there any questions from Board of Commissioner for Ms. Sietsema? Oh, thank you very much for coming in. And we greatly appreciate the interest in the watershed and serving on the watershed. Mr. Gerchen? And I heard two different pronunciations, so
Gerchen.
Gerchen? Okay.
Nothing like what it's spelled. My name is Jeff Gerchen, and I'm applying to re-up my manager position with the Middle Fork River Watershed District. It's been really satisfying being on this board. The Watershed District has really turned itself around and are doing a lot of good things. We're doing work with Belgrade, Spicer, Atwater on their stormwater. We've actually brought in a in-house engineering firm to use on call as we need to help with some of these projects. We also are doing a big project on CD 47, the Middle Fork Crow River in the next county down. Right now that's being held up because the Army Corps of Engineers have some more stuff to look at. One of our biggest projects that we're looking at right now is a nanobubble project for the city of New London, where we're going to try and get rid of that smell issue of the hydrogen sulfide. And I just got a text message this morning from Dan, our administrator, and we actually, in the bonding bill, we have a hearing on this, where the total cost of the project is 2.2 million. We're looking for 1.65 million in the bonding bill, and we already have a match for the remainder, half match of 225,000. So this appears to be moving forward. We had a meeting at our office a while ago, and Representative Baker was there, and him and Dan worked on doing the bill. It's its first year in, so we don't know. But that's very exciting. There's been some articles about it, and it is a very good technology for taking care of the issues they have there with the smell and the sediment. We're also doing a lot of outreach, I said, with the communities. And it was good to get Spicer on board for their stormwater projects. And so far, it's been really good. We are doing good things. And we're starting to become a resource to the community, which is what we want us to be. Because it's much easier to fix those things on paper than when it's on dirt. Thank you.
So before you leave, give anybody an opportunity to ask any questions if you have any for the candidate. All right, well, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
So we've heard from both candidates, you've received their letters, and I would entertain a motion for an appointment to this position. Commissioner Dwayne Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's kind of fun to see that we have enthusiastic applicants and very well qualified, I think. And so it's a hard decision, but I do know Jeff, and I know that he does a good job on there, and he's very enthusiastic, and I'm sure Sarah would be as well. And so it's hard, but I really want to give Jeff another shot at this and to see what he can do with the nanobubbles and the project that he's proposing, or that has been proposed, with that Middle Fork Crow River Watershed District. So with that, I just want to make a motion, or I'd like to make a motion to nominate Jeff Gerchen, or reappoint him as the Middle Fork Crow River Watershed District, board manager.
So there's a motion on the floor to reappoint Mr. Gerchen as a watershed manager. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Dale Anderson seconds. Any further discussion?
I guess I'd like to say something. I sit in on that committee
And I'm very impressed with the Watershed Commission. They do a great job. Like you said, they've kind of become a organization that is there for information for the community, and they've done a lot of things that are pretty impressive, I think, for our communities. The little town of Belgrade, I mean, they're working with them on the stormwater issues and all the way down. I mean, it's been amazing to watch how much stuff they're able to get done and projects they're able to do. I think that it's a great organization that's really serves our community well. So I want to thank everybody for the interest. It's a good deal.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Just to share my feelings about this, I understand why they didn't make a recommendation. It's really, like you said, Commissioner Anderson, two good candidates, one direct experience, one with a lot of good other kinds of experience to bring forward. This is a tough decision, but I think I made up my mind. Thank you.
And I think there's plenty of opportunity going forward too, for someone who might be interested, depending upon how this goes. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you both for coming in, and
You bet.
hope to see more of both of you in the future.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stick around if you want, but you're welcome to leave too. All right, next up on the agenda is the roof. Mr. Thorson's going to be up here talking about the roof bids for the CBHH facility.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. We did do a public bid opening on February 23rd at the County Facilities Maintenance Building with two bidders in attendance, West Central Roofing from Wilmer and Hein Brothers Construction of Mankato. To go over the bids, bid bonds were attached to both. There was no addendums. West Central Roofing's bid was $221,549. That's $221,549 and $0. Hein Brothers Construction bid bond attached. Their bid was $249,000 even. That's 249,000 in no cents. And another thing on this, with bids coming in nice and low, with insurance money and funds from the state, the county will not be required to come up with any more funding for this project. So I guess I would look for approval to award this contract to West Central Roofing from Wilmer.
You heard staff recommendations regarding the contract or the bid regarding the roof. How do you?
Mr. Chair, I'll move the recommendation of staff to award the bid to West Central Roofing.
Commissioner Gardner moves to award the bid to West Central Roofing of Wilmer. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Berg seconds. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good news about the cost, fantastic. Just a couple of questions. Approximately when would they start? And also, with all the people doing roofing around here the last couple of years, I was surprised you only got two bids.
It's quite a large project.
Okay, and then it's bigger than most of the other people would want to take on. Okay.
Any other questions?
When would it start?
Hopefully they're gonna be pounding nails within 2 weeks.
Okay.
They don't pound them anymore, just so you know.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So you also have, Mr. Thorson also has a presentation about the assessment report on the facilities assessment, condition assessment.
Thank you.
Yes, gentlemen, I am here to present a brief summary of the executive summary for the county's facility condition assessment, which was completed last fall. I believe it was handed out to you, and it will be available on iCompass for all you. And I'd appreciate if we can hold, it's pretty intense, so I will, if we could hold questions to the end of the presentation, I'd appreciate it. I'm sure there'll be plenty of time at the end.
Before you get started,
Yep.
Andy, so initially they were gonna, I see this is dated January 11th. Initially, they were gonna have the final one done by March 12th. Did that get moved back a little bit?
Yeah,
Is this
it-
the final then, or is this?
Well, this is the final facility condition assessment, which will be on your iCompass, which is 700 pages long. That's why we're only going to go over a portion of the executive summary. But the whole document is available to all of you.
But it is complete now.
Yes, yeah. The only thing we are waiting for is the implementation into the software, which we can plug information into and will give us different options moving forward on what we should budget and what projects we should be working on.
Okay, thank you.
Slideshow.
Kansas County entered into a contract with Alpha Facility Solutions to provide facility condition assessment and equipment collection for Asset Essentials, Brightly's cloud-based asset management solution. So that is the management software that we are currently using. So this is part of an upgrade to that. The project was completed by a team consisting of engineers, architects, and construction professionals. Data collected during the facility condition assessment phase of the project was input into Alpha's asset planning and performance software in order to estimate current and future funding requirements for facility sustainment. This predictive approach to asset management is known as capital planning and is used to anticipate funding and maintenance needs for many years into the future. The scope of this project, the work included, identify and document the current and forecasted conditions of approximately 613,242 square feet of county facilities. Identify and document current site needs. That would be your roads, parking lot, the utilities, landscape, and things like that. Identify and document the remaining service life of building systems, to include the building itself, architectural finishes, roofs, electrical, plumbing, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. They'll provide a rough order of magnitude, which is cost estimates for building system renewal and site repairs. Forecast facility renewal requirements based on life cycle analysis of existing systems over the span of the next 20 years. So this document will provide us a 20-year roadmap of maintaining our facilities. It will also provide a facility condition index, which is a measurement to illustrate the relative condition of all our facilities. Alpha's planning software was used to document the conditions, to determine current requirements, and to forecast future requirements for our buildings. System and component life cycles used within these cost models are based on average service life of the systems, and that'll present that on a future slide. Basic building information obtained was the gross square footage, which helps determine the current replacement value of our buildings. Date built, that also helps in determining life cycles of the building and the equipment in it. And then, of course, the building name and location. The team did meet with my staff and myself and went over what we've been doing and what projects, improvements we had coming in the pipeline, so they could take that into account when coming up with this CIP. Talking like the carpet projects that we do, the heat pumps, and replacement projects like that. In the report, they categorize building systems in level of importance, such as, HVAC is more important than if carpet's worn out, or a leaky roof is more important than a parking lot that needs to be repaved. So if you look here, it shows you all the different things that they considered high and very important in a building. And I think we can all agree with their summary here. Medium is going to be your enclosures, the doors, windows, interior doors, plumbing fixtures and stuff like that. And low is going to be your ceilings, your carpet, paint, and then your pavement. As part of the process, Facility Condition Index, FCI, was calculated for each facility. The FCI is used to quantify a facility's physical condition at a specific point in time and is calculated using the expired system replacement cost and the current replacement value of the building. So expired system replacement cost consists of work that is necessary to restore the facility to a condition equivalent to its like-new state. So an example is we have a building that would cost $10 million to build, but we need $3 million to bring it up to like-new condition, so that would give it an FCI of 30. It's also important to note that there is no recognized standard for what constitutes an acceptable or unacceptable FCI. For example, International Facilities Management Association indicates that building condition is often defined in terms of the FCI as follows. 0 to 5, hey, you're in pretty good shape. Fair, 5 to 10. Poor, 10 to 30. And you get over 30 and it's getting pretty critical. So we get into the life cycles of buildings and equipment. These numbers were calculated by BOMA, which is the Building Owners and Managers Association, and IFMA, International Facilities Managers, on what the general life cycle of systems are from data that they've been collecting over the years. It's worthy to note that most concealed systems appear to be functional. The county can elect to defer immediate replacement of those concealed systems that exceeded the average service life as appropriate by the availability of resources. So, the ductwork, super old, are we gonna go tear into it and replace it all? No. What we would do is clean the ductwork, go through the ductwork and reseal all the joints. I just want to make a note that each one of these facilities has their own documentation breaking down what type of systems need work, a suggested year to do that work, and estimated cost. Those, like I said before, all those reports are going to be available to you on iCompass. Warn you, it is over 700 pages, so it's a lot to digest. The FCI number is an average as a whole. We've had systems in buildings as low as 0. We've had them as high as 36. That's getting into the critical, and that means we need to do something, and something fast. So if you can look at, let's see. The Green Lake facilities that, they're kind of self-funded. We did that because they're a county entity, basically. The main facilities, those are going to be, the courthouse, county attorney, the library, health and human services, the law enforcement center. Then you got the county parks, that's self-explanatory. Prairie Woods, we included them on this. It didn't cost us anything extra to have them included. And I did share their section with them yesterday. And then Public Works is by itself. So you can look at, Green Lake Facilities is at a 0. But they put that at a 0 because we shared with them what work was proposed to be getting done out there. Well, now I hear that that work is probably not going to take place. Are all those improvements going to happen? Okay. But it does show that, they do need to spend some money even after the fact, in the next 5 years. And that's with everything. The main facilities, we're pretty good at top at 5, so we're getting pretty close to fair. But if we don't do nothing, then, within 5 years, we're going to be on the cusp of getting into poor. The parks, they're at a 6. If we don't do anything at the parks, it's at a 10. Prairie Woods, 4 and 5. Public Works, 9 and 11. My next slide will give examples of the systems work needed, the location, and projected costs for these systems, for the work required. I don't know if we want to go through every one, but like Health and Human Services, a lot of that cost is they failed our payment. It's getting, in the grand scheme of things, it's time to do something with our payment. And as Mel can attest, that's not cheap now. Courthouse, that's quite high also. That's because it has no, you got old electrical systems, interior finishes. Bathrooms are basically 1964. And a lot of it, if you can see, is, interiors, electrical is a big part of it. Another slide of different facilities. Roofs, electrical, and pavement is always a big one. Then we get down to the county parks. So there's a breakdown of what we need to spend if you want to bring them up into, good condition. Then we get to the question of renovate versus replacement. When does it make sense to replace a facility rather than renovate it? There's no rule of thumb, but if you're over 50, it's more than likely it's going to be cheaper to replace the whole building than to renovate it. Other factors, for that are, is the facility functional for what it is intended use is? Is it still used for what its original use was? Over the years, things have changed, offices have moved. Do we have unutilized space in facilities? Are we in need of more space in facilities? That's also something we need to look at. While budgeting may be perceived as reacting to short-term needs based on historical performance of facilities and systems, a capital plan anticipates both short and long-term degradation by employing a facility condition assessment and predictive cost modeling. I think everybody knows what budgeting is, but you have to take into budgeting, if you budget for stuff, projects long-term, like say we're going to budget for something for in 5 years. Well, it's easy to take that budget money away and put it towards something else. You get a new asset. We throw it at more operational costs rather than capital projects. And growth, if we have growth in the county. Capital planning, it differs from budgeting as it reflects the broader range of financial considerations over an extended timeline. The purpose is to predict and manage the future fiscal needs of the facility systems and components in order to extend the building's life. I guess over the years in my tenure here, I guess I would have to express my gratitude to prior administration and prior boards for moving on and approving and funding everything I've brought forth in the past. But we've done a lot over the years. But now it's just not enough. We need to take it a step forward. So I propose to work with the county administrator, facilities committee, and return to the board 3-4 months, sometime in the future, possibly during a budget work session, and address the needs for a 5-year capital improvement plan. And with that, questions, gentlemen?
Any questions for Mr. Thorson?
I got one.
Commissioner Dale Anderson.
You said, Andy, you said that it was a 20-year plan. So does it, in the software we're going to get with this plan, does it update as far as inflation or costs, or doesn't it adjust that part of it?
It will adjust. So it tells us that we should really be, if you look at the figures, and if you go by the BOMA's rule of thumb, is you should really be investing 2.5% of the value of your buildings back into your buildings every year. But that, our buildings are valued quite high, and that's $3.8 million a year. I realize that's probably not going to happen. But on that program, you can put in that we're gonna have a budget of $2 million a year. That program is gonna tell us what to do, when to do it, and if we end up doing something earlier, we plug that in, and it changes it down the road on what we're supposed to be doing.
Okay. Yep, that's what I was wondering. Thanks.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson.
Yeah, so I got a couple questions. One's kind of, I don't know if it's really related to this, but a couple years ago, we replaced the windows on the courthouse. That's all done and everything went good with that?
Yeah, yep. If we wouldn't have, with the past administration and past boards, of redoing the ventilation, we've done, all the air handlers. And we did the heating system, and we did the windows, all new air conditioners. If we wouldn't have did that, the courthouse number would have been a lot higher.
Okay.
So they were really impressed that we've kept it up as good as we have.
Okay. Yeah, I think our buildings look really good. I don't know all of them, but so also on there you have some of the older buildings are 95 to 98 years old. Is that?
You get into the county parks, and I believe the Mel's original office in the back, that is from 1928 or something like that.
And we still have places to tie horses up.
Yeah, yep. So it's buildings like that all the way up to our newest buildings.
Okay, I wasn't aware that we had something that old.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it looks good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's clean.
It looks good. It's got good bones, but a lot of the infrastructure, I'd say, of the building itself is old. It's outdated. It's beyond its life.
Okay. And then my last question would be on here, it says metal roofs, 25-year lifespan. I thought they lasted longer than that, but can you maybe explain that?
This is what, I come up with none of these figures. That's
Oh,
why,
okay.
we paid them to come up with these figures.
Okay.
Well, you take the community service shop. Was built in what, 1985?
Okay.
Somewhere in there. Oh yeah, it leaks.
Okay.
You know, and it's a metal roof.
Okay.
So nothing lasts forever.
I suppose the seams and stuff, they maybe leak over time.
Yeah.
So, okay. Thank you.
Other questions? So, go ahead, Commissioner Burke.
Oh, just a couple questions and comments too, just for everybody's information. We've talked about this in the past, the Prairie Lakes Youth Program building. And it looks like it needs some serious stuff done as well as exterior and roofing is.
Yeah, that is, so for Prairie Lakes, that's just the exterior.
Yes.
That is the only thing that the county is responsible for those buildings. So that's all I had them assess was the county's responsibility.
Okay, because it's our building, even though they're renting it. So they're responsible for that, but if they move out or whatever, we're ultimately responsible. That's too bad. I would have liked to known what they would have thought about the inside. So that falls back.
It's kind of, that's one of those, buildings it's hard to get into. For them to do their work in, secured facilities. We had to pay extra because we had a jail. And, because it takes so much more time to go through secured facilities.
This would be a little bit simpler than that, because there is two buildings, one's
Yep.
secure and one's not, and then different levels of it too inside, so, and they would have been happy to work with them. But I also want to go with this, there's been talk in the past, and we had planned as a county that we would, it's a joint powers, that we'd go do some improvements on that, because they've gotten dinged under licensing because of an inadequate gym for the people that are there. And also got dinged for the windows, I understand, too, so that's something, and that's exterior or interior?
Yep. It would be, we've been working on the windows every year.
Okay,
We're only allowed to do so much. You can't replace the windows.
Yep.
You have rotten wood, we're supposed to repair it. We do the best we can within, what we're allowed to do.
sure. Well, and also, we have to look at it from the point of view that Prairie Lakes Youth Program does have some issues with that building, making a good fit for the adult, or for the adolescent juveniles that are incarcerated there.
Yeah, I don't think
And
it
so
wasn't
we are
designed
still
for
looking
that.
at either remodeling or possibly moving some other place, and that's going to be a decision the board's going to have to take in as well. But it's a joint powers of 5 counties, so there's 4 other counties, and I'm not sure where they would be at with that. But there's still talk going on that. So the other question is not knowing how long they will stay there if they are. So it's nothing that there's definite plans to move out tomorrow or anything, but
Right,
it's been
yeah.
talked for some time,
And
and it's going to continue. So we would could potentially have that building, and then we have to figure out what to do with it too. And I'm sure we got buyers for it if that ever happened. But the other question I had and I want to share that with the board, that we have to kind of keep that in the back of our mind, because before we were going to the matching funds for the money that we would get to remodel that building, we were going to put in $500,000, if I remember correctly. And we didn't do that project because of inflation and COVID and all that going on. So that's something we have to think about in the future. It's not going to be only $500,000 we may have to put in if we're going to have to back that. And they would pay us back from that if we get a bond for the building from the state. But my question now is with you too. For this year, for example, looking at this, you had plans what you needed to do this year. How does this change that at all? Or the priorities you have, are they still pretty much the same?
Well, the projects that we have for this year, is still a continuation of the heat pumps. I have a roof And that's about all there is funding for.
Yeah.
There's,
And
on things that I'm looking at doing next year, I'm already over $1 million. And some of that is required work on our elevators that we don't have a choice to do. We're mandated by the state to do this work, and that's over $500,000.
if Mr.
And we have more roofs.
Go ahead.
Paul, and what I'm trying to say is, those priorities look like they're the same priorities in the category there
Yes.
as being high.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Commissioner Dwayne.
Yep. So thank you, Mr. Chair. So you said in here that when you gave this report, that about 2.5% of the value of the buildings or facilities should be invested into the buildings maintenance per year.
Not just in the maintenance,
Okay.
that capital improvement projects.
Okay.
So that falls outside your regular maintenance. You're changing your light bulbs and servicing your equipment.
Okay. So where would that put us at for a number?
I don't know what our,
Is that in this here report or no?
Nope.
Okay.
So a follow-up question, Andy, to Commissioner Dwayne. So, maintenance and capital improvement, what is covered in maintenance? Is that the replacement of windows like at Prairie Woods Environmental or Prairie Lakes? Or,
right now, we've been basically that's the CIP has basically been, needed roofs, windows, parking lots. Oh, we're doing the parking lot at the county office building this year too. So basically roofs, HVAC, parking lots along that line. None of the other stuff has been included in that.
and in the estimated $3 billion a year, 2.5% of the value of our assets, does that include long-term set-aside funding for when a building or a facility does need to be replaced?
No,
No.
that's just for your capital improvement
But
project.
wouldn't that be a capital improvement in addition or whatever? So
Yeah,
basically.
that falls, that was covered on, how things change. When you say you add on, that's gonna throw a monkey wrench in the whole program, but it'll adapt.
So do you know, excuse me, do you know what percent we're at now in terms of our set aside or what's in the different,
Less than one,
less than 1%?
yeah.
And I never understand this, maybe it's not a fair question for you, but when I look at our fund balances, I see Health and Human Service Building, I see Capital Improvement Fund. I think there's 3 different funds that indicate some sort of building maintenance.
Yeah, so right now we have, Fund 13, which is gonna be each building's CIP dollars. So if you look at the county office building, I have extra funds down there this year that normally wouldn't be there for paying for the parking lot. There's extra funds here for paying for the heat pumps. That's basically, that's what we've been doing over the years, is just putting money into Fund 13.
And that covers all of the facilities in the county or?
No,
is that-
just, there's 5 or 6 Fund 13 funds off the top of my head. I know there's courthouse, county office building, law enforcement center, and health and human services building. So that's, we haven't had the funds for doing a lot of other work.
So Fund 13 is an umbrella over all of the maintenance of all of the facilities, perhaps with the exclusion of Green Lake Sanitary Sewer and
Yep,
Water.
oh, yeah, yep. The parks.
Public Works and the parks,
Yep.
and the courthouse.
Yep.
Or is the
I-
courthouse included?
Yep, the courthouse has its building fund.
Is that in Fund 13 though, I mean?
Yeah,
And is Public Works in Fund 13?
no,
No, because they have different, sorry if I may, they have different revenue streams then that come in. So like Health and Human Services, they're under the Fund 13, but like Public Works, they're under their own Fund 11.
Okay,
So within Fund 13, like the county building is 110. So then you have departments. And this has been in place for a long time. Typically, counties will put building projects in a different fund rather than Fund 1, Fund 11, other funds. And then they'll list those departments. So our total in Fund 13, that is in your budget, is, like Andy said, we have a couple projects in there. The Human Services, we left that $1 million in there. The expenditures are 1.4 for 2024.
what's the balance? Do you have that?
That's been spent.
No, the balance of the funds in that account right now. Is it empty?
No, we've used 5% as of to date.
5% of the total.
Yeah, we haven't.
Okay, but
Paid out
is there a
something.
dollar amount of uncommitted funds in the fund balance? I guess is where, you know,
No, I think I understand where you're going.
yeah.
Those uncommitted funds, that's in the building fund. So this Fund 13, we don't ever keep any carryover dollars in here. That all goes towards that building fund, which that's in that spreadsheet that you get emailed out from Karen. That is something that we'll go over at that April 16th meeting.
Yes.
Because those are uncommitted dollars. What's in that building fund, that's roughly around $5 million. Those are uncommitted funds that is up to the discretion of the county board.
So about 5 million kind of.
Roughly around 5, yeah.
And so then when you look at the 2.5%, and, you know, I'm guessing this is probably information that could deal with about a 2-hour work session. And I had asked the question, and I'm hoping that the answer is yes, about whether or not we could zoom in the authors of this report to answer some of the questions that you're shaking your head.
If you have questions, I can
Okay,
certainly
so-
get the answers for you.
So where I'm going here, but we paid them quite a bit of money, so I don't think they would have an issue with that. But, so the 2.5%, which is $3.8 million, that includes all the facilities though, including Green Lake.
I took Green Lake and Prairie Woods out of the equation.
So,
And that's a dream figure. That's what they say, what you should do. Whether we do that, that's whether we can improve our buildings and then maintain after that for a little bit smaller and not let them deteriorate anymore. That could possibly work. I know other counties do dedicate the 2.5%.
yeah, that's it. Commissioner Dale Anderson.
Well, I guess maybe I have a comment and a question all at the same time, but I guess I want to thank your staff for going through and putting the work into this, because I'm guessing this took more than a couple minutes to put this all together and to walk through all the buildings and stuff. But I guess the one thing that I guess I ask, or if it's maybe just a statement, but this is basically going to give us as a board a roadmap of what to budget for in the future, so we don't end up having to budget all in 1 year. Is what you're hoping out of this?
Yeah, yes.
So it just gives us a chance to spread things out a little bit more instead of having an HVAC system go down and we have to do it all in
Right,
1
yeah,
year.
where it would, I wouldn't have, if we get it approved, go through it, work with the board, come up with a plan, adopt a plan, well, then it would save me from having to bother you many, many times a year.
Right. Thanks.
So, Commissioner Bergen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is very good dialogue, very good education, I think, for the board as well. And it brings up other questions, and it really does fit in with our budgeting as we go forward and having a better handle. This is good information. I think maybe I'm misunderstanding you, but by approval, and first off, also thank you very much for all your time and effort you put into this, and hopefully it makes your job more work, but less stressful maybe, or whatever.
Well, I'm not looking for any action today.
Yeah, right. But as we look at for approval, I think the approval would be kind of each year and, looking out, having a 5-year plan.
Right,
But
yeah.
each year would be tweaked. And
Yes,
So
yes.
really no
And I
different than
think
we're
that would
doing
be-
now, but better information.
Yeah, and that would be the facilities committee to, tweak that every
Yep.
year. Because things do come up, might have to move a project from this year to that year. It's gonna change, so, it could be come once a year, report on what we did last year, how it all went, and what we have on slate for the current year.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson.
Yep, thanks, Mr. Chair. So I don't know, maybe this is a dumb question, but is any of this maintenance or improvements, are they ever available or eligible for grant money, or is it all just bonding and out of our budget? Okay.
Commissioner Gardner, I think I saw your hand up.
You did. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Andy, thank you, and thank you to your staff for all the work they put into this. This is maybe one of the more important documents that we could see in front of us. Certainly, the taxpayers expect us to be good stewards of the infrastructure that we have. We've seen other governments where they neglect these needs, and then all of a sudden it comes time to pay the piper. And now there's a big uproar. So I think this proactive approach is sorely needed. And not to say that we've been falling asleep on this, far from it.
Oh, no.
That's not what I'm saying at all. But this is a solid plan for policymakers like ourselves to anticipate those needs. I think we probably need to figure out over the next couple of years a plan for getting to that 2.5%, to that 3.8. Because it's going to be that important for us to be able to make sure that the facilities that the taxpayers have invested in are going to be here for the future. So thank you.
Nope, thank you.
So I'm going to go back, if you could go back to the slide that says overall summary findings. I just want to be clear about. So the column there, it says 2023 FCI percent, and then skip that and go over to the 2028. So is the 2028, I think I recall you saying in another meeting that assumes that we don't do anything between 2023 and 2028, correct?
Yes, so right now, we need, let's just say Public Works. We could easily spend $2.6 million on Public Works. If we don't do anything within the next 5 years, that cost goes up to 3.3 million or 3.4 million, because we're trying to make up for the 2.6 plus other things that have happened or have expired within the 5 years.
So now I'll go back to 2023, and I'm going to look at that column and say that you and your staff, somebody has been doing a pretty damn good job, if you ask me, that we have, without this long-term plan and without, although you said we had been working with the software before.
Yes, yep.
So maybe you did use that as your guide, but those are pretty admirable numbers in 2023. I don't know what we've spent on an annual basis in these. I doubt it was 2.5% of the value, but you guys have been doing a phenomenal job, according to these numbers, of maintaining our facilities in the condition that we had here for 2023. So I just want to.
Thank you. And that comes from the, past administration and past board on funding. The windows, roofs, parking lots, those are all things that fall into an FCI that we did on our own accord without having a roadmap. But it was because things were so bad that we had to act on them. These things will be like, okay, we have a roof that's, 20 years old. has one leak, do we want to let it get more, or do we want to have it in the budget and have it taken care of when it's supposed to be scheduled to be replaced? It's easier to be, plan ahead than try to be reactive.
Mr. Go ahead. But just to, I guess maybe we're beating this in the ground a little bit. I just really feel that we have been doing this.
Yeah,
You know, this is not, we're putting the money aside. It's not like we haven't been doing this, and there's been good oversight. You've been doing good planning as we go forward. This is going to be an extra tool that you will have, and it'll be a good tool, and it'll be a tool for the board that we can see, and you can come and say, this is the priority, and this, it fits with this as well. And we may have to say no or yes, and we certainly would like to build that fund up really greatly, but then we have to balance that budget.
Oh,
And we have, you know, broadband, we have all these childcare funds and other things to do with our budget, but we have been doing it, and we'll hopefully commit to continue to do it, and I'm sure we will. So, thank you.
Commissioner Dwayne.
Okay, yeah, I got kind of two questions here. So that FCI percent, did they come with a recommendation where our goal would be to be in like a range?
Well,
Because 0% would be
I
unrealistic.
would like to be good.
Yeah.
That is what most counties strive to be, is good. I did have an hour-long conversation with my counterpart down in Dakota County. A lot bigger than our county, you know, 10 times the population, 8 times the square footage of building. And that is their goal, to keep everything in good.
5%
shape.
or less.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they've been having, you know, being so large, they've had a capital improvement plan for years. But 2 years ago, they did an FCI or an FCA just to reassure them that they were on the right track.
Okay,
Well, it came out that they were short.
really?
Yeah, so they ended up increasing their funding for that.
Okay, and then is this the same software that you had, we came with or decided to go with, I think, that if you need to repair, like, say, a furnace in a facility, that you can pop up the manual to see
Yeah, yes,
what you're
yeah.
supposed to fix? Okay.
Yeah, that's part of this whole project, this $100,000 project. Because really the FCA only costed $65,000. A large portion of it is they came out and tagged 1,400 pieces of equipment, and it'll generate work orders to us with the manuals in directions, in your parts needed, how long it should take, all that. So to ensure that we are doing our work correctly.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I got one other question.
As long as you have questions, we'll keep moving here, so just.
Just a quick one. Does it give you any guidance on replacement? You know, I mean, I would guess that it would be over 30, but I mean, does it give us any guidance as far as, you know, when we should start not putting money into a building and decide we're going to replace that? Or is that strictly our decision?
That's gonna be a discussion.
Okay.
You know, I mean, you have to outweigh, you know, you take into account of, is the building actually used what it's supposed to be used for?
Right.
And do we need to sink all this money into this building? Or is there a different option?
Yep, okay.
That's a
yeah.
really good point, because we started this conversation with, you know, the bid on the building that we rent to the state of Minnesota. And there isn't a nickel's worth of profit in it for us to own that building. And the logical question is, why do we own it? Why, maybe we ought to be considering fixing the roof and selling it to the state of Minnesota or whomever wants to buy it, and rid ourselves of that challenge that, because I understand that's always been a difficult negotiation year in or
Yeah.
from one contract period to another contract period. And to me, it makes no sense to own something like that. And
It's a difficult property to manage.
so
The
there's.
state has a lot more hoops to jump through
Yeah.
with anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, myself and my staff would be joyous if administration and the board was able to turn that over to the state.
But we bring this up because there's really a lot of granular information that, we need to go through and consider, as we go forward with these projects. And again, I want to compliment the staff for, without the roadmap and the 2.5% annual set aside, I think these numbers are actually quite remarkable for where we're at right now. And I'm guessing Public Works has got a higher number than we want simply because of that old equipment. that was part
Yep,
of
the
building.
old building really puts a kink in
I
there.
got an old
Plus,
car
their
at
one
home,
big
though, too,
roof
that
is
still
due
works
next year
pretty
to
good.
get replaced. That's a big dollar item.
All right, anything further? Then we will thank you for your presentation, and we're gonna take a 5-minute break. But before you leave, when we come back, Eric is here and ready to present, and, Mark, do you have something too? Where is that at? Oh, so if you guys don't have any objection, they're here, we'd go ahead and let them go. We'd switch that around in the agenda.
Let's just take care of that right now.
You want to keep going now?
Yeah, let's just take care of them right now.
Okay, that's fine. Instead of taking a break right now is what you're saying. All right. So Eric, if you're ready to proceed, we will proceed with the Planning Commission recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Eric Van Dyken, County Zoning Administrator here with 4 different action item requests. These are 4 recommendations of the Planning Commission from their meeting on Monday, March 11th. And I'll go through them one by one. First, we have a request from Nokomis Energy. This is, as has been a bit of a pattern with some of these solar projects, this is a reauthorization of a previously authorized project. They continue to have some delays in the solar market. And because they run up against their 1-year expiration, they're needing some of these to get reauthorized. This is one of those. It's down in Holland Township. It is again, a 1 megawatt solar facility called Community Solar Garden. The Planning Commission does recommend approval with the 2 conditions and the findings as were originally approved. And with that, staff recommends approval.
So you've heard staff recommendation on the Nokomis project. How do you wish to act?
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to approve this with conditions and findings.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson moves to approve citing conditions and findings. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Chair.
I heard it on this side, maybe
Oh,
it's only because
good.
it's my better ear. So Commissioner Berg seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have a request from Ryan Hendricks. This property be in Dovery Township up on County Road 5 near the Horizon Hills area. Mr. Hendricks is engaged in and would like to expand and continue to operate as an ag-related machine shop where he really essentially repurposes planters into small 2, sometimes 1 row planters that have kind of a niche market in research applications, food plots, different, sometimes farmers will use them for fill-in planting where their larger planter may have skipped some rows, et cetera. So he's kind of got a unique business there going on. Right now, he pretty much operates by himself. He hopes to be able to have a couple employees over time, but not a real large operation overall. He did, there was some pretty good and considerable discussion there. I thought it was productive. The Planning Commission did arrive at a conclusion recommending approval with 6 attached conditions and the findings as you see in the draft minutes.
So you've heard the staff's recommendation. How do you wish to act on this application?
Mr. Chair, I would move to accept Ryan Hendricks' application with the conditions and findings.
Commissioner Dale Anderson moves to accept the CUP for Mr. Hendricks. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you. The third request is from Mr. Raul Vasquez. Mr. Vasquez is proposing to locate a business in what historically has been the 71 Baton Sports building. The landowner there is Joel Kitarowski, and he's been doing some significant upgrade and revamping of that building. Our ordinance does allow for reuse of those buildings that had historically been used commercially in a R1 shoreland residential district, and it says if we're going to change that use into another commercial use, we need to go through a CUP process to make sure that it's being done in a way that is not disruptive, especially in a residential zone like that. And Mr. Vasquez requests a spa and massage services, especially highlighting the therapeutic nature of the work that he does. He was pretty adamant that this type of work that he does is kind of a necessity. You might call it even a medical necessity for his clients, as opposed to kind of a luxury type of setting. He focuses on things that are therapeutic in nature and not simply enjoyable for people. And so that's the focus of his business. Some of it would be an outcall from that location, where some of his staff would go to people's homes from there, and some of it would be done on site. Parking, of course, became a little bit of a consideration, and there is probably a little bit more there than people might realize. There's 3 different parking spaces available up in the front, between the house and the building, and then actually around behind the house. Mr. Kitarowski has made available some historic parking that was there due to an old public access that was there. So a fair amount of parking available. And with those considerations, this Planning Commission does recommend approval with 5 attached conditions and the findings as you see.
So you've heard staff recommendation for the Raul Vasquez application. How do you wish to act on that?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve Raul Vasquez. How I'm going to kill it. Raul's application with the conditions and findings.
Commissioner Dale Anderson approves the Vasquez application. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Gardner seconds. Any discussion?
Roger, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I was at that meeting that night, and I think that this is kind of a unique situation that somebody is taking over a place that has been refixed up and redone. And I hope it works for them. I think it's a great opportunity to make use of a good building. So I thought it was interesting.
Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chair? Yeah, could you elaborate a little bit more on the business, massage therapy and spa? You did mention, it's kind of a therapeutic one, and it sounds like they were going to also then do business outside that they... Elaborate on the business more, why don't you? Because this is the first time you had to approve something like this.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Berg. So this gentleman is a man who grew up in this area. He has some ties in Texas. He runs a business like this in Texas and also in central Mexico. His mother lives here locally, and he's kind of moving back and was looking to add another branch to his business. So he has pretty established history in this business. A lot of what they do some work with veterans, people dealing with PTSD. They have some, what he calls a neutral buoyancy. They have a saltwater, what he calls kind of a pod, where people can be essentially neutrally buoyant. Like the water is so dense that you can't sink in it, so people can literally fall asleep, laying in water. Things like that. They do, because of how COVID has changed a little bit how people receive services or their expectations for receiving services. That's part of the reason why they do a fair amount of outcall, because, people, food gets delivered to people's homes. People work from their homes a lot of times. And so part of their business is our workers will go from there to someone's home, provide services there with portable equipment. And again, a lot of this is for people that may need certain type of massage therapy in order to just be able to perform a repetitive task or do their job in a way that's not filled with pain and stuff. So that maybe a bit more of an overview. I'm not sure if that's the type of detail you're looking for.
Very well presented. I had a question. Are they licensed or approved then for this kind of therapy that they are providing? Do they have to go through anything like that with the state?
My understanding from Mr. Vasquez is they do not, Minnesota does not have licensing for that type of service. That was my understanding from him, that Texas does, but Minnesota doesn't.
So along those lines, do you know if this would fall under the purview of Chris Wenich in Public Health to inspect this on a regular basis?
I'm not aware, I would not be able to say.
And I asked the question rhetorically because it is not the responsibility of the planning commission to vet those kind of things. And it is the responsibility of the owner to follow the applicable laws and ordinances, so. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Basically, they've checked off all the boxes to be eligible for this kind of zoning ordinance. Okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. And we have one more to go.
Yes, thank you. Lastly, we have a request of Chad Nealand. This is a request located up west of New London. It's what I would call the Sibley Road, runs from New London over straight to Sibley State Park. And he's located in the area that is colloquially known as Starlight Starbright. It's essentially kind of a rural residential development and agricultural district. Mr. Nealand lives on the property, and he is hoping to do some amount of auto body service, and then also because he has a auto dealer's license, the state requires a local sign-off for his dealer's license and ability to display vehicles. Now, Mr. Nealand typically would not be displaying many vehicles because he tends to fix vehicles kind of on order for people. He knows somebody wants perhaps a mid-sized crossover. He watches for one in the right price range, the right type of vehicle. He buys it at auction. He completes the work and he sells it to them. So typically, it's don't necessarily envision a lineup of vehicles with flags and banners and trying to catch traffic going by. Look at my nice cars. So a little bit different than that. He did a fair amount of work in his neighborhood, talking to the neighbors. We did have a number of neighbors call in, kind of curious, et cetera. We had some neighbors at the hearing that were, I think, cautious in their wanting to seek a little better understanding. And I think the overall concern there is in an area like that we not get into a situation where it kind of feels like a junkyard and things start to pile up, et cetera. So the conditions are intended to address those type of concerns. And so with the conditions as you see listed 1 through, I believe 6, hang on. 1 through 6, and the findings, as you see in the draft minutes, the Planning Commission does recommend approval of this request.
You've heard staff recommendation. How do you wish to approve or to proceed? The chair will move on this application.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that with, if you.
Oh, citing the, thank you,
Yeah, okay.
Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Any comments or questions?
Mr. Chair, you said there was some people had some concerns and questions about that, and that's why you put those specific conditions and findings in there. Did you get a sense from them that they felt somewhat satisfied with those conditions, or are they the ones that they were expressing?
Yeah, I guess I would say so. Some of it was so these would be pretty typical conditions. So we tend to try to anticipate these, and we kind of have a bit of maybe you'd say kind of standardized conditions that we tend to put on some of these things. And so some of the people were just calling in, doing what we hope they do when we send out notices. We can't put all the information in a notice, so we encourage people to call in. And then a lot of times when we explain what the request is, how staff might recommend or how the Planning Commission might weigh and balance and conditions that might be considered, that a lot of times will put people's mind at ease. And so some of the firsthand conversations I had, I would say concluded with a good comfort level. And then I would say from the testimony that we received there at the night of the hearing, I think it's safe to say as well that they had a higher level of comfort once they heard the types of conditions that would kind of help guide. And I think the credit to the applicant that he was pretty clear that he he desires to maintain a property that's in keeping with that philosophy as well, that he wants to live in a place that's organized and neat and not dragging his neighborhood down.
Great, thank you.
As a member of the commission, I would concur with the assessment that staff just explained. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
All right, Mark? And then we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Mark Thompson, County Auditor Treasurer. First item I have is Resolution 2024-8, authorizing sponsorship of a grant for trails operated by the Glacial Lakes Trail Snowmobile Club. Any questions on the resolution? I want to point out one thing. Third paragraph down where it talks about myself being authorized to sign the application on behalf of Candiota County as sponsor. And if approved, the agreement with the Department of Natural Resources. Also below that, this resolution, this agreement will be for 3 years. Previously, we had one for 5 years. I don't know, I just felt 5 years is pretty long, so I backed it off to 3 years. The 5-year resolution, previous resolution has expired, and that's what's driving this for us here. I think if you look at resolution, attached to resolution 2024-9 was an email from Stacy Bratch from the DNR, and on there, I pointed out where the resolution was expiring. Again, that's for the DNR trail, but these two kind of go hand in hand. They were renewed the same time, so. Any questions on and again, this is something that in the past, the board has always sponsored, has acted as sponsor for a grant.
It is a resolution. It almost felt like it could be part of the consent agenda, but it's resolution 2024-8. Now, look for a motion regarding resolution 2024-8.
Mr. Chair, I'll move resolution 2024-8.
Commissioner Dale Anderson moves on resolution 2024-8. Do I hear a second?
Second. Okay, go ahead. Mr. Gardner.
Commissioner Gardner seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carries. All right, you can move on to 2024-9.
2024-9 is a resolution authorizing sponsorship of the Burr Oak Nordic Ski Trail, Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center. They manage the Burr Oak Ski Trail. And again, they're asking the County of Candy, Ohio to be the sponsor of the grant application. Again, this agreement would be for 3 years where I myself, I'm authorized to sign the application on behalf of the county as sponsor, and then if approved, the agreement with the Department of Natural Resources. I will come back to you, and it might even be part of the consent agenda. Once they authorize the grant, I will let the board know how much the grant is, and then they would approve the grant. This is for signing the application, and then after the grant's been approved, I would sign the agreement. But I will bring the grant information to you if they are awarded a grant amount.
So essentially giving you the authority to carry out this grant.
Yeah.
You've heard staff regarding resolution 2024-9. How do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I'll move resolution 2024-9.
Commissioner Dale Anderson moves on 2024-9.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, thank you. I just want to express your appreciation. I'm glad it wasn't on the consent agenda this time. It just gave a little bit better overview of it. And
Yeah, and normally I would, but this is a 3-year agreement, so I
Yes.
wanted to
Yep, thank you.
bring it to the board, so.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carries. Now we're going to pivot just a little bit and talk about a gravel tax
Yep.
report.
Gravel tax report, 2023 gravel tax report. All the commissioners got the information in their packet. The first item I would like to talk about is the number of yards and the tons and who the contractors are that reported gravel tax. As you can see, some report by yards, some report by tons. The tax is 21.5 cents per yard. If they report by tons, it's 15 cents per ton. Any questions on that? The total collection for the year was $188,308.11.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Could this be put on the overhead, or wouldn't it, the numbers are too small to even show up there?
No, we can try.
That way the public can see how it's broke down. I'm always amazed at all the gravel dealers.
So, Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
So that percentage, it says 42.5, that's the percent that goes back to that township and then the rest goes to the county, or how does that work?
Yes, and I'll get to that in just a minute here on the
Oh,
next page. I don't know if they can see it or not, but anyway, this contractors, yards reported tons and the total collection. The next page, as Commissioner Anderson was talking about, is, again, the total collections were $188,308.11. The way that's broken down, we take, for administrative purposes, we take 5% off the top, which is $9,415.41. That the balance remaining is $178,892.70. And then of that $178,892.70, 42.5% goes to the townships.
But just to be clear, it goes to the townships from where the gravel was mined?
Correct, yes. 42.5% goes to the Candy Ohio Road and Bridge Fund. And then there's a special reserve fund, 15%, and that came to $26,833.90. And again, that makes up the total distribution. There's a penny rounding.
Commissioner Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see you're 1 cent short.
Yeah, we're
At the
1
very
cent.
bottom. Just a quick question, and Administrator Baker, maybe you can help me. What special reserve fund is this then, the 15% going into? Or you know?
Well, I'm going to call on Mel. Mel, do you have any idea
Or
what
is
you
that
guys?
your fund?
It's set aside, and I don't think we've ever used any of it.
No, there's two things. The set aside is there for if there's a complaint or some pit owner doesn't reclaim it according to current standards and they don't desire to reclaim it. We have a reserve account that we can pay ourselves to reclaim it. It's basically like a bid bond. And just for your note, since we're talking about this, the 42% that goes into the Road and Bridge Fund, we apply that directly to crack filling every year. And you'll see that in my maintenance report out, and it's in our 5-year budget. We'll talk about at Road and Bridge. But to preface my maintenance, but that is exactly what we dedicate it to crack filling, because that's the most basic method of active, like heavy commercial traffic does, working cracks on a asphalt road, and we seal the cracks. And that's helps fund that project.
Very good explanation. Thank you.
Okay, I have one little question. So on here, it has 2 other townships and they're not part of our county. What's the deal? You got Gilchrist Township and Glenwood Township from,
Yep, so the gravel came from there and we charge gravel tax, so
oh,
we charge them. Or the contract, we don't charge them, the contractor reports the tax to us.
okay.
I should
I
say.
thought that just got reported to Pope County, but it goes to us and, okay.
So I have a question, and perhaps it's not for you, so maybe I'll save it for Road and Bridge meeting in a week or so regarding that. Also about that special reserve fund, whether or not we have ever had to use it for any purposes, and if we've not, must be building up quite a
Yeah, that's the
Quite a
next
balance.
page.
Oh, okay, sorry.
The next page, as you can see, 26,833 90 cents was the amount for 2023, and if you add that to the previous amounts, the reserve balance comes to 318,826. And I'm, I didn't mean to put Mel on the spot, but once he mentioned it's for reclaiming gravel pits, yeah, I remember that. He has mentioned that before in previous years. So, but I don't think it's ever been, well, I don't ever see anything coming on this fund, so nothing's ever been used.
And the 2011 and 2018 notes,
Yeah, there was an overpayment by Donix, so
okay,
in 2011. And what's here?
so you
18.
adjusted it the next year or so.
Yes, and Donix, oh yeah. So in 18, there was a fourth quarter mistake,
All right,
so.
so this is, you're looking for
Just-
approval of this?
Sure, just approval so that we can pay it out to the townships and pay the county road and bridge and pay the auditor staff or the auditor department the 5% admin fee. Disperse the funds is what we're,
Yep, very good. So you've heard the staff recommendation? How do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the annual gravel tax report for 2023.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson moves on the gravel tax report. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Dale Anderson seconds. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mark.
thank you.
We will recess for 5 minutes. You want me to sign those? To Big Candy East, yep. We will reconvene the Kennewick County Board of Commissioners meetings. Next up on the agenda, we're going to skip back a little bit to when we juggle around a little bit and go to the Big Candy East Indian Affairs Council Maintenance Agreement. Administrator Baker.
Commissioners, Kelsey Baker, Candioi County Administrator. I'm really excited that now we have this maintenance agreement before you today that we are asking for approval of. It's the maintenance agreement between Big Candioi Lake County Park East. And it kind of spells out, it's pretty self-explanatory in there, but this is something that the Minnesota Indian Affairs Council had asked us to do when we met with them in September out at the park. And so we're hitting our deadline. I had spoke with Todd Miller and the park managers and the park committee commissioners, and I said, I want to get this on the agenda no later than March, before camping season. And so it lists out what the duties would be that either our county staff would do or the park managers. If there's anything that isn't on this list, either the park managers or county staff would email or call MIAC, letting them know what that duty is, and be okay to move forward with that duty or that task. In order to do this, it does, for me, it's a liability that we're covering our county employees and our park managers, and I think that's really important to have this agreement before we start the park season. I would like to do a call out for Jeremy Pfeiffer. He helped me with this agreement. I said I want it to look like a highway agreement that the board approves, and so he kind of helped me with the formatting and things like that. I have emailed this to our MIAC contact a month ago. He signed off on it, so this was ready to go to board. I've emailed this to the park managers and kind of the committee that we've been working with, so some of the public works staff, the two commissioners, the park managers, so forth. And so they've all reviewed this. Todd Miller with Public Works has worked with the park managers to verify all of the tasks, pre-season, during season, and post-season. So this is all the information that's in there. Like I said, if something isn't in there and we have to email or call MIAC, that will just be a routine basis, and everybody is really aware of that on who does these, who would do that. And so today I'm asking for approval of the agreement. As you can see, we would have MIAC sign, the park managers, and then the county board chair and the administrator.
So you've heard staff recommendation for the Big Candy East Park Agreement with Minnesota Indian Affairs Council. How do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the Big Candy Ojai Lake County Park East Maintenance Agreement.
So we have a motion on the floor to approve the agreement as presented. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Dale Anderson seconds. Any discussion?
I just want to say
Go
one thing,
ahead,
Mr.
Commissioner
Chair. So if you guys read through it, it is very detailed what can be done, what can't be done. That's just kind of how it is now. It's just another set of, kind of like another regulation we have to follow. And if you look at, I mean, it goes into detail about, that we're going to be turning off breaker number or for the well. And so, I mean, it's very detailed and sometimes you kind of wonder if that's necessary, but maybe for legal purposes and for covering everybody's backside that, everything is detailed like that. So I guess, we may be happy with it. We may not be happy with it, but that's just the way it is moving forward. So.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Yes, it looks very reasonable and very fair from both parties, and I think good collaboration on this, so it's a good way to go.
So I just want to point out one thing. Steffel, if you're talking about the Steffel well and pump from here, is it a Steffel pump from down in Brown County?
Just from here.
Yeah, so it's spelled a little incorrectly. So, but they spell it different ways, so that's why I asked which one
I
it is.
can double check.
There's about 3 different spellings of Steffel, but Steffel well and pump does it. Into Commissioner Anderson, you go ahead.
Oh, yeah, so that just brings up another question I have. Should that be stated that they will do it, or should we leave it a little more generic? Because it might be a different well company or different service?
And this agreement it's a working agreement. If there's things that are getting added, so let's say in 2026, we change the water lines or something like that. This is a working document.
Okay.
And so this really, we wanted it as detailed as we could right now, just because our first year
Yeah.
is gonna be kind of a learning curve on how that communication goes between park managers and MIAC and county staff and MIAC. And so we wanted to make sure it's detailed. I think after this summer, moving into '25, we'll be able to maybe change it a little bit and make it a little bit broader terms and maybe have it be a 3-year or 5-year agreement.
Okay.
So
But-
that we
but
wouldn't
what-
have to revisit every year
Yeah,
then.
my point is though, like, say we don't go with Steffel in the future.
Yep.
And we use another provider or whatever for the service, should it just be a little more generic on that
And
one?
we
I mean,
can-
I don't know.
we can change that.
Okay.
Yep.
Because every year we'd be changing it if that, so, or is this something we will be adopting every 3 years or 5 years?
I think we're gonna revisit probably with MIAC
Okay.
in postseason and probably on a monthly basis, how often we call them. But if you wanted us to remove that, it would just be an approval on the amended agreement then.
I think.
With those
it's good enough
changes.
For now, but if we, maybe in the future.
Do an amendment.
Yeah.
What's that?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
No, I mean, I think that's a very good point. You know, we could just say contact the appropriate plumbing or
Yep.
well service to, I think what the administrator is saying is, when we met that day, we wanted to basically verbatim what we agreed to, like, there. You know, because I think there was a nervousness about how is this gonna work? And we just said, okay, well, we contact Steffel, and then we do this, and we contact Wilmer Plumbing, and we do this, and we wanted to be just as open, like, down to where we park, almost, you know what I mean? Because we just didn't want to disrupt anything
Yes.
so,
And-
I mean, we could easily just say, as amended or whatever, we could easily word that.
But to Mel's point too, that day at the park, MIAC was asking those detailed questions. But I am fine either way. If you want it to be more generic, at least MIAC would know who the company is. Because I do think there is some transparency in that, when we're working with them on who's coming out and where they're located and what they're doing. And so I think we could be more generic in the agreement, and just communicate that more specific information with MIAC.
So you need a motion to amend it then?
Within the motion, you can just say amended with those changes.
Okay.
And so we do have a motion and a second.
So
consider that a
I would
friendly
like
amendment.
to make that a friendly amendment.
Okay. Is that okay with the
Yep.
seconder? Okay. I would just make the comment that it does seem detailed, but I remember back in the day when I was raising dairy heifers for dairy farms, some of the questions we went over before we entered into a contract, sometimes they'd say, boy, that's really getting in the weeds. And it's like, every question we anticipate and answer ahead of time prevents an issue afterwards. So, seems like a lot of detail, but probably is well-served. All right, any other, Commissioner Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank Kelsey and the committee and everybody else, Public Works, who worked on this. And I especially want to give a shout out to the Minnesota Indian Affairs Council. It appears that they have worked with the county with a lot of grace in this matter. This is something that is historically and culturally significant to them. And I appreciate our desire, and I hope they do as well, that we intend to be good stewards of this moving forward and armed with the knowledge that we have now.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, so we did all of, Mr. Odens, you are up next.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I've got 4 things before you. They're basically the maintenance contracts for this year's 2024 construction work on our roads. The first one is going to be the annual chloride, where we chloride in front of people's homes on our gravel roads that are within 250 feet. And we have about 275 of those. We do 35 miles of continuous chloriding on some of our more busy gravel roads. And then we also chloride as where our gravel roads come into our paved roads. We chloride the first 100 feet back. So with that being said, we do about 52 miles total. And then we put it out for a maintenance contract every year. And this comes from our levy dollars, our maintenance fund dollars, and it's my recommendation to award the bid this year to Knife River Corporation of Sauk Rapids, Minnesota, in the amount of $233,850.
You heard the recommendation of staff. How do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I'll move the recommendation of staff.
Commissioner Gardner approves the staff recommendation for the bid on chloride treatment. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Any questions or comments? One quick question. Do the townships participate in this or, okay,
No, we don't, they do not. Okay.
they do
so-
their own?
Correct.
All right. Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
The next one is our crack filling. This year, we're doing about 27 miles, and as I stated earlier, this is where we utilize our gravel tax. The amount that's submitted, earmarked to the Road and Bridge Fund. Bids were open on March 12th for the crack filling. We're doing about 27 miles, 335,000 foot of cracks. We try to do this every year, and this year, it's my recommendation to award the bid to Northwest Asphalt and Maintenance out of Thief River Falls in the amount of $224,785, which is below our engineer's estimate by $10,065.
Here's staff recommendation for the crack fill contract. How do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I'll move staff's recommendation on the crack fill.
Commissioner Dale Anderson moves. Do I hear a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Berg seconds. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
The third one is our striping contract. We do a latex stripe every year, basically every 3 years. But we're doing the northwest quadrant of the county this year. And then along with that, we do all of the 15, we have 16 municipalities in Kennewick County. We do the other 15 because the city of Wilmer does their own. But we do all the municipalities every year. And then we do a third of the county, if you will, every year. This year, it's the northwest quadrant. And this, once again, is paid with our maintenance funds. So it's my recommendation to the award the striping to Camco Incorporated out of Dassel, Minnesota in the amount of $140,525. And that is also below our engineer's estimate by $12,475.
So you heard staff recommendation on the striping contract. How do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I'll move staff's recommendation on striping.
Commissioner Dale Anderson moves on the crack fill, or striping contract. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. One quick question. Some of our striping is done with HSIP dollars. Is this done with
No,
HSIP dollars? or
this
levy
is
dollars?
not. The HSIP will be a separate award.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And incidentally, on that note, we'll be doing about 50 miles of HSIP, and we'll be doing that in April, the bid.
So, again, we always use a lot of.
Oh, HSIP is-
HSIP stands
it's-
for Highway Safety Improvement Plan. It's federal dollars that we get every year for that kind of work.
About $250,000, $500,000.
All right.
And then the last one is our seal coat. We did not do seal coat last year. Seal coats is kind of expensive, so it's hard to do every year because 5.5 miles is almost $200,000. It's about $40,000 a mile, which we need it because it seals up the small little cracks. But this is paid for with levy dollars, and it's an eligible item for construction dollars. So we do use an element of county state aid on our state aid roads. So with that being said, it's my recommendation to award the bid to Asphalt Surface Technologies of St. Cloud in the amount of $202,417.20. And that, once again, is $3,610.80 below our estimate.
So you heard staff recommendation on, what are we doing on this one? We're doing seal coating.
Seal coat, yep.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we award the seal coat contract to Asphalt Surface Technologies.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson moves on Asphalt Surface Technologies awarding the bid. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Dale Anderson seconds. Any further discussion?
Mr.
Commissioner Berg?
I just want to comment about, it looks really positive how these came in under bid and under the estimate, so.
Yeah, the first one was overbid, but the net of all these, I think, is right about 17,000, 18,000 to the positive for us, which is a good sign. We're going to be seeing what the bituminous bids come out here in a week.
Yep. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Odens. I wanted to, well, it's a question that came up when the building maintenance, and when Andy was here, I think it was you asked about grants.
Yeah.
I just think it's worth a look. We hired a lobbyist in Washington DC. The Inflation Reduction Act and the act at the federal government for reducing energy costs, I think is worth looking at. Because if we have old pumps and outdated pumps, there may be something there for modern pumps and modern heat systems that could qualify. So I think it's at least worth a look, so. I believe we are done with our regular business and we're going to reconvene. I am going to recess this meeting and we will reconvene down in the lower level at 11 o'clock.